Lokay, and that seems to be the strategy so far for Vice President Kamala Harris's campaign. She has been the presumptive nominee for more than a month at this point. It is the topic of a piece Axios put out called Harris's Cautious Hold the Details campaign. Let's talk about that and more with our friend Stephen Neukam, who's up late with me tonight here on the Final Five. Stephen, here we are. We're going into night two of the DNC, but we really don't know a lot about what Vice President Harris stands for, although the polling seems to flesh out that voters are more or less voting on personality, it seems.
Yeah, it's sort of like a don't show, don't tell campaign at this point. But look, I think that the party in general, certainly the Harris campaign, Democrats across the board, they just want to ride this wave for as long as they can possibly ride this wave. I mean, they were in a crisis with President Biden at the top of the ticket, trying to figure out what was going to happen. All of the press was bad. The vibes were bad. So now at this point, they've turned the corner. I think Tuesday night, night two of the DNC truly is turning the corner with President Biden's speech out of the way. I think that they're going to want to ride this wave as long as possible. And Democrats that we talk to are hopeful that, you know, once the convention ends at the end of this week, that she'll get in front of reporters and do an interview pretty soon after.
I think that's been the talk for a lot of people. I mean, Republicans have certainly seized on the opportunity to point out that Donald Trump has given several press conferences. We have not seen a substantive sit-down interview with whether it be Vice President Harris or her presidential nominee, Tim Walz. But again, when you look back at the polls, it seems as though maybe that is something that the voters are fine with at this point in this campaign.
Yeah, I think so. And if the voters are fine with it, the Harris campaign is going to be fine with it at some level. I mean, until there's real concrete political consequences for, you know, not getting in front of the media, not holding a press conference, not doing a sit-down interview, then again, I think they're just going to continue on this path. Now, I think that she will do one probably relatively soon. I think that the drumbeat of not just from the Trump campaign, but from other Democrats, from the media, is going to get steadily, increasingly louder if she does not do it.
And obviously, this is all a precursor to her accepting the nomination. And then the next big event would be that debate coming up on September 10th. So a lot can happen between now and then. As we've learned, debates can change a lot in a presidential campaign. I think, obviously, the calculus going into this debate is going to be a bit different because it's not necessarily showing, it's not necessarily going to be on the vice president to show that she's of the age to run for the office, unlike President Biden was.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about this last night and just how historic that Biden-Trump debate was. Like when you're in grade school and you're learning about presidential debates, you learn about the Kennedy debate, some of the very first debates, how television sort of changed presidential politics. The next sort of edition of those history books is going to include the Trump-Biden debate and how it almost unilaterally sank the Biden campaign. It ended his presidency or his second term.
It did his presidency too, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So the stakes are high, but they're not that high for Vice President Harris. I don't think there's a potential for a crash out moment like that.
And the one thing we haven't seen in this convention, you and I talked within hours after President Biden leaving the race, and there was still that big question as to who the nominee would be. Would there be a fight for the nomination? What would that Democratic convention look like? Now you have guys like Dean Phillips, who obviously challenged President Biden very unsuccessfully, but they sort of welcome them back into the fold. It's a much more conciliatory scene that we're seeing play out in Chicago compared to what I think a lot of people thought it could be if President Biden were still on the ticket.
Yeah, I think the only sore point within the party still is the relationship between President Biden and the Democratic leaders who effectively pushed him out. Now, they're trying to sing Kumbaya. You had Nancy Pelosi holding the We Heart Joe banner in the front row. But I'm here to tell you that all of those feelings are still pretty raw, and there hasn't been a reconciliation of that. So I think the conversation around Harris is different. I think that there's a lot of momentum. There's a lot of enthusiasm for her candidacy. But the reality is there's still some raw feelings in the party about how President Biden's candidacy ended.
Thank you, Stephen.
Yeah, man.
And the Final Five is back after this.